Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to what is the first, but not the first. This has happened in the past. This is an installment that I have decided to just call about 10 seconds ago. I thought, C.A.B.S. We're just going to call this C.A.B.S. This is C2 head-to-head. We're going to do this a number of times. This is the initiation of that. For the initiation of it, we have two gentlemen that will be competing on 5. I have selected a 5-point head-to-head. Now, each of those points has more than one thing. 5 is a good number because there can be no ties. This is an Exocutioner. This is a Zoku FF. As you'll notice, they are both fitted with J-Concept's megalithics. They are both fitted with C.A.B.S. They are both C.A.B. only. This is a Proline Cliffhanger C.A.B. That is a J-Concept's Warlord C.A.B. That is insignificant to the discussion. Velcro and screw posts body clips for this gentleman. Then what you will notice is battery on the left-hand slider. Secure 120 amp ESC on the opposite slider of both. This guy is running BTA steering. This guy is running servo on axle. He doesn't have a choice. He is running a stubby kit, and there is a Rhino 1470 kV there, 3S, and there's a Rhino 2340 kV there, 3S, because he is portaled and he is straight axled. So there are differences, but beside those differences are those similarities. We've got, in the tail of the tape, we've got a good 17 millimeters more wheelbase on the Exocutioner. I want to say the Exocutioner sits at around 330. 330, take a shot. And the Zoku FF sits at your traditional. You see it everywhere. You see it every day. You see her face in the rain. 313 millimeter wheelbase. Shorter wheelbase will result in a tighter turn-in. You'll get a little bit tighter of a turning circle, generally. We have 18% underdrive here, provided all internally from an OD3 gearbox. And we have 6.5% overdrive here, brought to you courtesy of a completely spec edition VFD with all the sintered gears on the inside and running a tiny little spur and pinion. They are both geared to be right about the same speed. That is the idea. And we have a little bit of tail of the tape that we can throw up here in the corners if we can get those to orient properly. The Exocutioner, as pictured, well, with the battery with this on. Now, as pictured, 2,297 grams. That is a crossweight 4951. Pay special attention to the fact that it is 1,135 grams on the FRRL. So that crossweight, 1,135 grams. Immediately behind that one, we've got the FF. We'll just drop that on there like that. As pictured, 2,322 grams, 4951 on the crossweight. 1,135 grams crossways like that. So we are talking about a weight differential of 25 grams between the two. The differences show themselves when, now we're both C2s. Let's position so we don't flop. We're both C2s, but we have much more skid forward. We're about, I want to say we're around 20 millimeters more skid forward on the FF, because that is kind of the deal of the FF. The total split between front link length and rear link length is reasonably close, actually. Despite the fact that this one's skid is further back, it has 17 millimeters more wheelbase. So the rear link on this and the rear link on this are very close in length. The rear link on the Exocutioner is a 155, and the rear link on the Zoku is a 160. So we're only talking about 5 millimeters difference. But the front link on the Zoku is a 90, and the front link on the Exocutioner is a 115. So this, I mean, you can see, it's an inch. We've got an inch more skid forward, and I think most importantly, I think what will stand out to us the most in terms of what we see out on the rocks between two vehicles that weigh less than 1 ounce different from one another. Both megalithics on the stock J-Concepts medium foams, as both of these vehicles are around 2,300 grams, right around 5 pounds. The stock insert is more than adequate. Actually, they work really well. We're not going to see a ton of side loading on the tires. When I do that, I don't see any squinch. It doesn't roll over on me. And when I do it on here, I don't see any squinch. It doesn't roll over on me. We have two really quite different approaches to geometry. The Exocutioner is low roll center in the front. See how the links touch? This is more of the typical traditional VR. I mean, this is a VRD skid. So we have VRD front geometry with the big split there. We have minimal triangulation, so you can kind of ordinarily there's a little bit of flip-flop, side to side. This is very freshly assembled, so it's nice and tight. This low roll center has a real different behavior with those lower links connected. When I lift like this, I can feel the cross weight. It feels like someone is physically pushing this tire down. That is advantageous to the behavior of the Exocutioner. That is a big part of why it handles the way it does. On this, there's a point where if I lift, we have a bit more flex. When I lift right there, it feels like somebody took that weight and lifted it off. So when we begin to push it, then we have a fall away. We have a fall away situation. That is something that is where the geometry shows itself. That is built into the geometry. When I lift this guy up like this, I feel the weight come off there. So it's getting, and then when we lift that, it doesn't want to fall away. High roll center can be an advantage, but that's not low roll center. High roll center can be, the low roll center here can be an advantage, but that is not the end of geometry. Link length differential between the lower link and the upper link. Link placement, the amount of the anti-squat value, the amount in between the links is impactful. This is running portals, so it's on 85 millimeter shocks. This is on straight axles, so it's on 95 millimeter shocks. My intention was to build this initially on portals, but I didn't have any. And then I built it on straight axles because, partly, for those who haven't been following, partly because I have not yet, or had not yet, found a situation where I found the cooperation between a VFD and a straight axle to be something desirable. I think that the VFD is by and large a portal gearbox, and I want to do things my own way. That's the beauty of toy cars. The OD3 is basically a straight axle gearbox, and I paired it with portals. Now, to pair it with portals, I have put overdrive gears all the way around to speed it back up, because we have a lot. I cannot express enough, loudly enough, that there is a significant mechanical advantage in terms of gearing on the Exocutioner as outfitted relative to the FF here. The FF is just running gear with a 1400. It's a little crisp. I had to gear this guy way up, right? Put a bigger pinion in, put overdrive gears in all the portals to try to bring the speed back up, and then run. What percentages of 1400 is 900? This is 50%. Let's call it 50% because I can't do the math in my head right now. It gives me a headache. 50% more kV to go about the same amount of speed because we have a lot of mechanical advantage here. See it fight me? Does not fight me. They are both absolute goers in my experience, and We have gone through a couple different tires on this one. When I was building this one, there was a set of megalithics on the rack. I fitted it with megalithics, and then I said, if I am ever going to compare these two side by each, they must be fitted with the same tire, because otherwise that is a variable. That is a controllable variable. There are a lot of things out of my control, but that is a controllable variable. So we have, again, to reiterate, Secure 120s, Rhino S12s, megalithics on stock inserts, 60 kg servo there, 60 kg servo there. Both servos are direct power. Both vehicles are on Dravtex. Both vehicles are outfitted to have about the same amount of gear in reduction. The biggest and most glaring difference would be this is on portals and this is on straights. But I believe that the skid design of the Exocutioner, because it tends to hang up a lot, it really requires a portal to get that clearance, to get that skid through. This guy, like, it mounts the motor as low as possible, but look how much less skid profile there is. So I believe that despite the FF being in effect a conversion for the VRD, I consider the FF to be, I build them the way I want. This is more of a straight axle layout. So I found a place where I like the VFD with straight axles. The 10 Pro Portal is one of my favorite axles overall. And getting 18% in the gearbox, it's about where I like to be, around 20%. This guy is at 6.5. I can do some tweaking and get him up to 20. But much as I haven't seen the need to change the underdrive overdrive ratio in this, I haven't seen the need to put weights on the front of this. Despite the fact that we have a 10% almost differential in fore to aft split. I think it's 9% difference. The handling of the Exocutioner at 54.46 compared to the 65.35 on this. So yeah, 54 and 65. I'm sorry, that's 11%. 11% more weight into the front. I've never felt like this needs weight thrown at the front. Because of that low roll center front end, it doesn't lift when you'd think it would lift. So, enough of that. What we need to do is take these two same, but different rigs out there to the 5 points. We will go to Quaylen, which is the side hill, because I want to see them both side hill. I want to see a more conventional roll center in the front versus low roll center. After the side hill, we are going to do the loop at Oblivion, which runs through gate 2 of Green Line, because I like to see, that's where I want to see maneuverability, and then we're just going to make it hard on them. We're going to do a 2-point hit at front 9 through gates 4 and 5, which is the crest over at gate 4, and then clearing the barrow at gate 5 at Hans Booby, which is a very tough gate to clear. Then we are going to go to Hannah, Montana, and there are 2 ascents, 2 particular ascents. One is round the crest, and one is the Impossible Waterfall. We will do both of those. And then the finale is the 3-pronged, the Trident ascent at Mount Tumbledore, left side, right side, center cut. And we will see who comes out. Like, here's what I think. If I'm speculating now, and it's my course, it's my rules. If I'm speculating now, there will be no winners nor losers, I don't think. I think we're going to see 2 vehicles that have strengths in different places. Now, where those strengths lie will kind of, hopefully, if there's a hope, it's that it will inform your eventual purchase. I need it that does this more than this, or I need it that does that more than that. Options are always welcome. And as I said, this is our first one of these. We've got a variety of 10 Pros. We've got the Mias Gold Rush. Not in my hands as of the recording of this, but will be at some point in the near future. The OT6 Wizard. I have purchased a C.A.B. So that I can fit a C.A.B. to other vehicles, because this is C.A.B.S. Welcome to C.A.B.S. C2 something A. We'll figure out something for the A. Battle Simulator. There's C.A.B.S. Everything is better with an acronym. So these are the first two: Zoku FF and the EXOcutioner. Did I even show that he's got his shiny sticker on the back, and he is identifying himself as well. FF. These are the two. First day out to the 5 points, and let us see how they do side by side. As said, rolling in side hill, fresh megalithics, very fresh megalithics, throwing rocks everywhere. Let's get a little bit better of an entry there. It's so bright. Oh, it's so bright. Yeah, I will tell you this, just from getting them out here, there is a real difference. I mean, OD3 and portals versus VFD and F10 straights. It just, like, we get a little bit of lift right there. Actually, we've got that rear just barely touching. Came in pretty low there. Yeah, okay. It got a little out of sorts at the end. All right. Because we need to get that little bit of slip over. A little more, a little more, a little more. There we go. Now, how are we going to keep that front down? It really does not want to keep that front down. It's getting a little misbehavey there on the exit. And this guy, I didn't do CG on him because I feel like there's probably still other setup stuff that needs addressed. But there is something to be said. I mean, all other things being equal, a straight axle is going to have a CG, you know, that 10, 12 millimeters lower. I came in a little higher. Yeah, a little higher. Well, it's not an over collapse in the rear. It's just we're getting that weight transfer is really throwing. So on the other tires that were tested, I didn't see it never felt like it needed weight. It is really throwing that front tire up. What if we put more into it? It is just reaching for the sky. There we go. We can push through, but from what I saw, okay, pop this guy back. It is weird knowing that there's 900 more kV in one than the other, and they feel so close. It's got to be that forward weight distribution. Yeah, it just hardly lifts. At least in the side hill, it is definitely like if we're awarding points, it's point to the Zoku here. We do a little bit of tying the bow here at Oblivion. Should have no issue here. There's a little hole that's been dug out from other tire tests. There we go. We got to get around that a little more. Okay. There's a lot more forgiveness in the Exocutioner due to pairing a not specifically portal gearbox with portals. See, it raises that front, but like in this instance, it doesn't feel floppy. Nice drive through there. Need to catch and turn. Very good. Pulls that around. We have no issues approach and departure. Stay super, super flat right there. Coming around, trying to use no revert here. Got a little too over. We're trying to catch this edge right here. Nice, excellent breakover through there. No problems through the middle. Coming around, are we gonna keep the front end tidy? Absolutely. Yeah, no collapse on the outside. That front tire gets loaded up and there's no collapse to it at all. Good maneuverability through here because we have that massive amount of gear reduction. It is super manipulable. We try the floor is lava technique past keyhole, in which we want to see how this, what does the attitude look like? Like, are we going to get a rear fall away? Are we going to get the front to over pivot? It's kind of dropped. We're riding the slider a little bit, but I think we can get past that. Nice, re-angles nicely through there. Ooh, a little bit, got a little side bind on that rear. Needed to get it a little more this way, I think. Yeah, really good. That's that roll center, keeping the front pretty smashed down flat all the way through there. Now, side by side is very advantageous because I want to see the differences. Again, lower KV, but much less gear reduction. Probably 15 points less gear reduction. And a third of the overdrive underdrive split, 6.5% versus 18. So honestly, lower underdrive overdrive splits are a little more forgiving. See, we go a little wide here, got a little wider there. The 18 kept us in a bit tighter. Right through here, we're gonna get a little, kind of handstands a little. That's that front bias. We'll see, can we get around with a no reverse? See, a little wider cut, angle it back. We want to catch the ridge right there. Now see, I felt like that placement was easier. We definitely had to, I could have finessed that entry a bit better on the Exocutioner and kept it tight and not had to reverse. At the 6.5%, I even at the 313 wheelbase, I don't think we could have cut it. I don't think we could have cut it all the way in. Pretty nice there. Now let's see. We have to try a real cut back here. Is it going to push wide or is it going to stay in? That's really, really similar. Really similar. They drive. Need that front tire to cut free there. They drive like they are much more dissimilar in weight than they actually are. Like, we're talking 25 grams. Yeah, they're almost reversed. Like, the Zoku feels a bit more weighty. But it feels more direct, let's say. Yeah, especially through right there. That was one where I thought that the advantage would go more to the Exocutioner through that last part. I thought the 18% was going to be more impactful. Now let's just do a little straight belly over right here. That's a pretty good look at breakover. There's some flex action there. We'll cut back down right here. Yeah. In terms of descending, I mean, obviously, if you go less skid forward, you have less a proportion of front weight, it's gonna go smoother. Let me see. Breakover through here. Surprising on genuinely Surprising how close they are straight versus portal. Yeah, edge to the Executioner in descending, sure, for sure. You've got gear reduction, you've got portals, you've got a more, you know, what was it, 54-46, so that closer split. The Zoku feels more, I don't think, more direct. I don't want to say agile, it feels more direct, in which if I give steering input, I feel the effect of that steering input more immediately. And that is both climbing and descending and side load stuff. Particularly, the one that was most noticeable was right here. When I got right here with the Zoku, I could put that rear end exactly where I wanted it, keep that tire right across that ridge line, exactly where I want it to be. Now, I don't know if it's the overdrive. I don't know if it's a little soupçon of the Geo. But when I get him right here, okay, I want to get that side up right there, get that tire right on there. It feels like, it kind of feels like I'm dragging a weight. I don't know if that's the gearing. I don't know what combination of effects that is. There's a, perhaps this is something endemic to 10 Pro axles. You also sideways the Zoku got. This will keep that front end pressed down more easily, like it kind of does it on its own, until you get to a point where you get past that tip. That tip feels like it comes on the Zoku later, even though I don't think that's actually true. I think that's the CG kind of showing itself. The Zoku rides lower because it is lower, so it gives you this illusion of greater stability, when I think that actually, when you get them chopped up, the Executioner is behaving more stably, despite the higher CG. What I have to assume is a higher CG. Both of these guys are sprung very light and damped pretty heavily, so they both get a little bit of that body lean. But because one is portaled and the other is straight, they lean opposite directions. Zoku gets the body lean to the right and the Executioner gets the lean to the left. Okay, so what we're trying to do is breach over right here. This is a fall away right here. We're in big fall away territory there. It is unfriendly. It's unfriendly. Now, I am very curious to see. You have to, honestly, you have to be a little more deliberate with the throttle input. It's a bit more forgiving on the FF. Okay, is that gonna rise? Yeah, it's rising. Okay, we gotta try to count it. We gotta try to fight it. Fight it. It's getting that weight transfer over and a little bouncy down. Okay, I have an alternate line for that. Problem is, it takes a little more cut in. We want to go lower. We'll just use the revert to get us into the spot we want to be. Whoa! Okay. These are roll to wheels guys. Gets a little squirrely under big throttle. Okay. If I give it a little too much steering input, we really get some head wagging. Yeah, it's that skid popping in. The skid is a big thing. As I showed, it hangs down a good bit. Ooh. We might, nope. I was gonna say we might be able to salvage that, but no, we cannot. Okay, try the same approach, go a little wider. A little wide out. What I want to find here is at the limit. What are we looking at the limit? In modest circumstance, the Zoku, the FF is more forgiving. Yeah. Yeah. And that skid forward attitude really starts to show itself. I was hoping to get the Executioner over here because I wanted to see this descent through right here. It just feels like the rear end here has just gone weightless on us. Kind of did. So we'll give Zoku first dig at the impossible waterfall. Even finding the entry point to this is not particularly fun. Get it up here. You have to side lug it, and then you've got to get right in there. And the problem is, if you get an overbind, front or rear, you get that, where it's trying to bend your body in half. Can we? Can we? No, that's a backbreaker right there. If we can try to get it right across the double face here, okay, okay. Do we have the drive to keep that front down? Need to catch a little more. There's a little stick point. Driver rear is kind of stuck up. It's not helping us right here. There we go, there we go, there we go. Pull it back down, pull it back down. No. The bucket will come and eat you. This is where bump comes into play. Ugh. I can't quite keep, and then the ejector seat. I can't quite keep the front end where I want it. I can see where the line needs to be, but I can't quite get there. All right. See if that longer wheelbase will help us at all on the entry. We'll try to bridge it right there. Yeah, there we go. Instantly deeper. Now, can we walk the front end over enough to pull the rear past? Get up, get up, ah! That looked real good. The ejector came on real late. I've had rigs attempt this ascent, and the ejector will throw you all the way down onto the dirt. Yeah, I think, ooh, that's that overload. That's that overload. 18%, definitely helping out right there. Will it help out here? Because what we need to do is now it's passenger rear needs to find a line that is not going to overwhelm driver rear. Executioner better on that one. At the limit of right there, it's a little bit of the geometry, it's a little bit of the underdrive, overdrive, it's a little bit of everything. That was more closer to where I want to be on that. All right, gate 4, straight ahead here is a proper, this is a class 2 line right here. That's a 15-inch gate. It doesn't really start to be a problem until you get to really big splits. You get up around 30% underdrive and bigger, and what happens is, and I'm hoping it won't happen here, we're looking at a breakover, absolutely clean. I had more room to work with there. What will happen is with big underdrive, you're kind of dragging your thukas, and it will pendulum the rear end over and knock the white. Now, I mean, you can see as Exocutioner breaches over the top there, there's miles of daylight under there. Portals in that chassis working together pretty darn well through there. Now straight axles on the FF through the same line. Try to approach it about the same. There is something, it feels, I've said that it feels more direct, synonymously more immediate. Ooh, ooh, set it down, set it down. Now in that one, it felt much easier in the Exocutioner, but I felt, I don't know, that's a straight toss-up. The sensation was very different from one to the other. How did I get that guy on the way down? Just parts in concert, I guess. The Exocutioner felt more, it felt like there was more drive. Here, the terrain, gotta use that wiggle again. The terrain is bullying me around a little bit. Counterintuitive to where I thought we would be. Usually the bigger, the 18's not really gonna hurt us, but I thought that we would get through a little clearer than we did with the Zoku. Advantage there, certainly, to the Exocutioner. And it wasn't like we were knocking golf balls everywhere. It's just, in the perception of it, it was kind of the opposite of the initial ascent over at Hannah, Montana, where the Zoku felt like it was doing it a lot easier. And it did do the bridge across at the top. It did that much easier. But then, Impossible Waterfall. And then over here, felt like I had more, the forward progress was easier to get on the Exocutioner. So far, I think the ordering of the 5 is pretty on point, right? We're increasing in difficulty. That's the way it should be. Finishing it up over at Tumbledore. I've done this gate so many times, I should know the entry point by now. I want to see, where do we get? Oop, okay. I did an oop. Boop-a-doo. Okay, so that is way too far right. I'd want to be right about there. Now, what is the rear? Are we gonna wash? No, it didn't move at all. So we had a strike. Sure, it's a strike. How about right about there? We had a strike, which is like advantage in tennis if the Exocutioner can get it clean on the first try. Let's see what the entry looks like. Okay, all right, not really what I was anticipating. Amount of overdrive and underdrive notwithstanding, it basically just the rear end outdrove the front there. Okay, might have been a bind. Driver rear might have got bound up a little. Ooh, I don't like that transfer at all. Hack it, cut it back, cut it back, cut it back. That's too much slide. That's too much slide. Okay. Yeah, right there. What is that bind that is just throwing it into the sky? Once it finds that pivot point and it starts to swing back, it really throws it back down. But we get right here and we get right there. It is just going weightless in the front end. A little reverse, pulls it back down. A little bit forward. We're not translating this into forward motion, and it does not appear to be an over collapse from that rear. Okay, well, I mean, we gave the Zoku the white side, so. It gets really loose right there. Far more than I would anticipate. So we'll try to cut it in, not that high. We'll try to cut it in higher. Right there, right there, right there. Okay. And we're gonna cut back. We're gonna ignore white side. We're gonna give him a little more of the mountain. Okay, reel standing up. I think we're gonna teleport right over the top there. Yeah, he had to find his way. It is real weird. Real weird, the behavior of that front end once it starts to lift sky. There it was right there. But again, the forward motor. Now you can't stay in that deep. All right, come on. Cut it back. Now cut back the other way. Lean on it. Lean on it. Okay. Get right here. Yeah, the Exo was going away right there. Yeah. That has to come down. That's just weight distribution right there. I harp on the fact that front to rear ratio is not nearly as important as sprung to unsprung. But we're doing stuff where we're attempting to get to those limits. And in this instance, 11% additional weight on the front axle is not to be discounted. But at the same time, simply slapping brass on the front of the Exocutioner is going to add weight. So its overall weight is going to increase. It is not going to get it to the portion of, it's not going to add 11% front weight. If we put 250 grams of weight in the front, that's 10% of the weight. It's not going to distribute all 10% of it out that way. It's going to be 250 more grams in the front end, which are big knuckles. But I mean, I have brass knuckles, so it is definitely something to take into consideration. But there is a geo thing happening here, and there is a weight distribution thing. We're never going to get the center of gravity on the Exocutioner as low as it is on the Zoku, because the Zoku is straight axle versus the Portal. I have, and here's the real issue, which I don't know if it was showing, but I am attempting to pay attention to it. They are getting hung up and are banging skid about equally, despite the Exocutioner being portaled and the Zoku being on straights. So their behaviors are certainly more similar than they are different. So I would try to get ahead of any comment, a negative comment, by saying that I think outfit-wise, I don't think there's an advantage one direction or the other across the board with one being portal and one being straight axle. I think their tunings as they sit now, which are remedial, we are still early on in the evolutions here. They're only going to get better. They are surprisingly close overall, and surprisingly dissimilar at points that I was not anticipating. We will read left to right. My Cobra fabled front body mount for the Exocutioner has gotten a little wobbly. So it's got a little bit of body shimmy, but that actually shouldn't be harmful at all. If anything, it'll just help the tires move the body out of the way. Okay, we got more of a slide right than I would have liked, but could just be entry. It was just indeed entry. We want to cut across. Want to watch what that nose is doing right there. Good. Solid. Yeah, real easy stuff once we get up past that. You get past that midway point and it gets real easy right there. The geometry is holding it down. Zoku, same entry. Try not to get too far left or right. There's like a center line to cut right there. It just feels like there's more drive. I don't know if that's geometry. I don't know if it's CG. I don't know if it's a combination of effects. I just know that when applied properly, I don't think anything out there can put powertrain weight as low as a VFD does. An OD3 sitting on top of a skid is like the motor on the FF is lower than the skid on the Exocutioner. Okay, through there. Now we're really going to see the descent. Yeah, it really does not lift. Descending is something I take really quite seriously because we're not going up all the time. At some point, you have to go back down. And, the Executioner is coming in strong here. Weight distribution playing part of that. Big gear reduction being part of that. Ooh. Trying to get a straight axle over in the exact same spot as a portal is a little tricky. Yeah, I feel not significantly less controlled, but I feel like I'm a little bit of we're a little bit more at the whims of the obstacle. Like we got a little wild right there. Whoa, yeah. Part of it we'll fall in. We're just kind of letting gravity take over. We go directly to hard side center cut. The closer you are to the right, there's a shadow. There's a shadow just right in front of driver front right now. We want to be as close to that shadow as we can get. We want to come right across this face right here. And what we don't want to do is see this big transfer. But I think if we can cut that tire down, it will drop back in. And we should be able to drive it through, catch a little right there, and drive it through. That's proper, that's stuff. That's proper stuff right there. Zoku, same task. As close as we can get right there. Okay. If the images don't show it, I'll tell it. It's a little bit of geo. It's a little bit of weight distribution. It's a little bit of everything. The Zoku through that. And CG, let's not discount CG. Zoku was cleaner through that. I like to do a full, we just say full lock right here because I want to see overloads. Woo, right there. That was the overload. But really, really catchable. Come across the face here. I would say, despite what we saw at Quaylen at the side hill, when you get into choppy stuff like this, when we're not talking about overloading a wheel during transfer, the Executioner is really good on a side hill. It is also a little bit unpredictable though. The Zoku is a little more friendly to, as evidenced, the Zoku is a little more friendly to inputs of both steering and throttle. And both at the same time. We are not going to descend as well. No, this feels like running downhill with a heavy backpack on. It is hyper responsive. Definitely getting more into that body, but it can't stay nearly as sharp across that side hill because I don't know why. I don't know why because reasons. The Executioner was much better across that side face. Felt really in control the whole time. I think this is speculation, just based on my limited amount of knowledge. The edge is farther away with the Executioner. The Executioner it takes longer to get to the limit. But the Zoku, the limit comes on much more noticeably. Like, you can tell when it's getting bad immediately. It's really good at expressing to you, oh, this thing is going bad. The Executioner is more like, oh, I got this, boss. And then suddenly, he ain't got this. So we'll try it again where I can see at least a little bit better. Try to do it blind. Yeah. The Executioner will get you into more trouble, because it will storm into the line like we're doing now and not really relay to you when it's going bad. That's really planted through there. Really planted through there. We need to catch more right-hand edge. We get a little stymied here. That is 18% fallback. Catch it, catch it. No, we're getting big drops. Okay, use as much fence side as you need. Getting a little pumpkin hang there. There we go, there we go. The line is there. He's just got to find it. We might as well, no, we're gonna, well, no, we'll swing him all the way down. This is the dead drop right here. We'll see how this transfer goes, because we have all that mechanical advantage. Oh, really nice across that ridge there. In terms of descent, whether that descent be under the control of gravity or under power, the Executioner has got it. And it's not just about the 11% at the front versus the... Yeah, see the front just stay? Yeah, it's more direct at the same time. I think that with tuning, like, we're gonna get them closer. But at that DNA level, they are, while appearing fairly similar. This is C.A.B.S after all. While appearing fairly similar, their driving behaviors, if we're just doing stuff, right? If we're doing basic stuff, they are, like, let's take gate 4. You give me 50 tries with each. I will get it down to where the two drive it exactly the same. They would feel indistinguishable from one another. But once you get up towards where we're getting into stuff that's near limits, they really diverge. I think the Executioner is going to get you deeper into that, I hate to say the phrase, but hard line, and then is either going to reward you or betray you. And until you really get that feel for what it's going to do, you're not going to know which one it is. The Zoku is going to take you not as deep, but it's going to tell you, it's really going to translate to you, hey, here's what's happening. So my inclination, my instinct, is to tune, not to tune the Zoku towards the Executioner, but to tune the Executioner towards the Zoku. I want that translation. I want us to work together as a team for that Executioner to tell me, oh, something is about to go wrong. Whereas, like, before we even, like, if I get right here, the FF is already telling me something is gonna go wrong because we're gonna do that dead drop, and there's a little like sawtooth shape to the ridge that we rode down with the Exocutioner, and I feel like I'm hoping we can get to that midpoint before we cut loose. Yeah, I'm just watching the front end slide. Any steering input just die. Yeah, I mean, as evidenced, we drove down that the face of Tumbledore. We drove down it with the Exocutioner. We kind of fell down it. But there is definitely something to be said for predictability. You can get your extremes more extreme. I would say that on a bass tune, which is what both of these are, it's like middle holes, everything. I would say you can get deeper into trouble with the Exocutioner and not know you're in trouble yet. The Zoku is very in sync with me as a driver. Maybe it's because I'm more familiar with Zoku geometry. It could be any number of things. As I said in the intro, oh so long ago, I see no winner nor loser today. The Zoku was better at stuff, and the Exocutioner was better at stuff. And then what do you do? What do you do? How do you decide in what direction you want to tune? Do you want to make the Zoku sharper? No, I love how direct the feel is. Like with the Zoku, I know that descending down center cut is going to be tough because it tends to throw its weight a little more. But when I come in right here and right there, there's no lift at the front end at all. That's not just weight. 100 and some odd grams of weight is not going to make that difference. We get right there, I feel so much more direct drive. I can get into trouble and then get out of it. So if we're talking preferentially, well, it's going to depend on what we're doing, isn't it? The Exocutioner, we get right in here. Lift, rise. You've got to find your line. Well, you've got to find the line that it wants to take. The Zoku is more flexible. I feel like there's more available drive. Same tire, same everything else. The Exocutioner wants to go. It's just missing some X factor, no pun intended. There's a little something that we need to tune into this guy because it is an absolute tightrope to get him up this right-hand side. It's going and falling, going and falling, going and falling. And because of the fundamental nature of it, it's right now, it's as it stands, it's a little too much falling for the degree of going. But I think, like as these go, and as we watch more C.A.B.S, we're gonna watch the changes in behavior of all the involved parties, and we're gonna try to get them all in here. We're gonna try to get in Gary Busey, the Mias Gold Rush. We're gonna get in one or two or all of the 10-3 builds. We're gonna get the Wizard when it gets here. We're gonna do these things. We're gonna do the 5 stations. We're gonna do them again and again and again. And I'm gonna babble on and on about what is doing what, and hopefully some of it will make sense. And we will talk a little bit about what tuning procedures we go into. We're gonna get into it. It's gonna occupy the spring and into the summer, these head-to-heads. And I thank you for joining us for this one. I realize I can't. I'm doing a disservice. we can't end this with the Executioner lying on his back in the dirt like he got knocked out in a bar fight, because it was genuinely, in my mind, it was closer than that. I think an outside observer might say, from like what we saw at Hannah Montana, what we saw right-hand cut here, some of the stuff, what we saw at Gate 5, the Zoku looked more sharp. The Zoku felt more sharp. But I feel like, as evidenced at like the waterfall at Gate 4, there's stuff that the Executioner is gooder at. And we're going to try to see what we can do in terms of tuning. And I hope I don't have to buy a bunch more sets of megalithics, because a lot of the other guys in the fleet kind of have tires that they're set on. I can't afford to buy megalithics for everything. They suit these two gentlemen really well. The day suited them really well. I think we did really well. Take away what you will. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put those in the comments below. I thank you again for joining us here on a beautiful morning. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And in between now and then, please, one and all, do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. Zoku FF and Executioner, as I said, there are no winners and there are no losers. If you have one or the t'other, they are both truly excellent. None of these things that we did, once we got past Oblivion, we didn't do easy stuff. And, believe it or else, even above the impossible waterfall, there are harder lines here. There are truly impossible lines here that have been passed never. And there are lines that have been passed once or twice, usually by sporties. So we'll see what we see. We're going to stick to the 5, and then as the tuning progresses and as things move on, we will see if we can't make things a little more difficult for these guys. So I hope that you, one and all, tune in to see that. Drive out of frame seems necessary. Well, we'll just roll that one down to the bottom. That's not a problem. And we'll join you right here. There we go. Perfect. A perfect end to a perfect day. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.